All right. Hi, everyone. Hi, Austin. Thanks for joining.
Of course, happy to
Uh,
be here.
yeah, I'm Deb Correa. I'm the Chief Customer Officer here at Resonate. Got everybody. Erica McCoy had a quick family emergency and so had to leave. So I'm a poor substitute filling in for her. So bear with me. Um, Jordan, we thank you for your business from Bonneville. You guys have been a partner with us since 2022, and we'd love to get right into this. Before we do, though, Meredith, what is the timing? How much time do I have?
You have 20 minutes, so we'll go till 3:10.
Okay, why don't you give me a 5 minute so
No
Jordan and I can make sure we're not wrapping here all day, because I'm sure I could go on and on. First, Jordan, why don't you tell us what you do at Bonneville and a little bit about yourself? That would be great.
Awesome. Yeah, so for me, here at Bonneville, I presently serve as the manager of research and data analytics. So with our team, I oversee a client data services team where we're helping leverage industry leading research like from Resonate to provide our clients a competitive advantage right at the end of the day. So particularly what we're focused on is really taking consumer-centric approach to marketing by focusing on consumers that are very important to a business and understanding who they are, what media platforms do they engage with most, what are their needs, what do they like, and to help our advertisers put their businesses and their marketing messages in front of those types of consumers. And so that's what we try to do is we try to provide that holistic view of the marketplace, the consumers that make it up, and ultimately any additional insights that can help inform their marketing strategy and business. So that's a little bit about what I do. And so we're primarily operating in a number of markets across the West, but we work with a lot of local and national businesses to help them get their marketing in front of the right consumers.
Great, thank you very much. And I apologize, I called you Jordan.
That's okay. That's all right. Jordan's a great name too. I'll take that one.
Yeah. I always like that name too. Listen, talking about consumers, they're evolving faster than ever. Keeping up the pace is impossible. How are you guys leveraging data to predict the trends and keep pace with these shifts to make sure you keep meeting those consumer expectations?
Oh, I love that question. And you're spot on. It's if anything, that's one of the biggest challenges for market researchers or advertisers today is to really keep up the pace with consumers as they're continuing to evolve. And really, the best way that we're doing that is with utilizing Resonate, to be honest, and particularly with RAI on that side. The ability to be able to continuously learn about consumers as they evolve helps us to predict their behavior, just like you do with your methodology. And that helps us to ultimately keep a hand on the pulse of what they're buying, doing, or thinking at a given time. One of the classic examples I like to point to when we talk about this with clients, for example, is ever since 2020, it's been a wild ride with the pandemic, but even ever since then, as we've had inflation, with economic challenges and, the war in Ukraine, all sorts of economic factors happening, being able to understand the personal financial situation of consumers is perhaps one of the sorry, I saw John Bryson's note on this. This is funny. But being able to have that valuable lens on consumers has been so advantageous because it's helped, I think, businesses take a step back and begin to think, oh, how are my customers doing? How is my target audience feeling right now? And that gives advertisers a really competitive advantage or a significant advantage to be able to meet their needs at the end of the day. And so our ability to best understand, at a given time, what a market audience may be feeling or what a client's website's visitors are feeling helps us to enable them to pivot and meet those needs at a given time. And that changes. We have a great example where we had a tag on a client's website where you could see throughout 2023 into 2024, as inflation ramped up, the personal financial situation of their audience shifted. So far, what used to be more audience living comfortably or saying they're living comfortably, now suddenly we're getting by. And then as inflation cooled down, we saw the inverse happen. And then as the election uncertainty popped in, it almost normalized and equaled out. And now we're starting to see optimistic living comfortably again. So it's a powerful solution that we leverage from Resonate to help us continue to keep that pulse on there. And the fact that, with your methodology of not only releasing just like a static last 6 months update, like other data providers will do, not to dig on those, they're all great providers too, but you know. But at the same time, having that near up to date real time view on consumers where they're at is really advantageous. So that would be my answer to that.
I love that answer. Is there any specific example of a campaign or an effort you guys made where you used our data where you had success?
Oh yeah, we have a number of those. One that I can share is we were working with a high-end modular builder. It kind of interesting if you're a geek like me, if you think of Tony Stark, Malibu house looks weird but really luxurious. That's the kind of homes that they were building. So they had a particular type of audience they were trying to market to, and so they're looking to primarily increase quality leads for these high-end homes in a number of different markets. So at the same time, they were redesigning their website and were trying to realign their legacy marketing tactics to date to meet the needs of consumers and drive more quality leads coming through. It's a long conversion funnel for this kind of business. It's not something that happens overnight. So one of the things we did was we deployed a lot of different digital tactics across programmatic display, other solutions to help, drive traffic and things like that. At the same time, before we got into that, we did place a Resonate pixel on their website to learn more about, okay, who is the audience that's coming, to get a greater sense of, who are your prospective customers at the end of the day. And we also quickly discovered that they weren't doing the best with some of their conversion setups and their Google ads and things like that. So we did a lot of different things at the same time. Now, as we deployed the Resonate pixel, one of the things we quickly found with their audience is while they were starting to drive a lot of traffic from their legacy tactics to date, a lot of that traffic would have been considered really lower quality. I mean, for these kind of high-end modular homes, you're really looking for people with a net worth of, I would say, even above 1 million and going into 2 million plus. And a lot of their audience barely had like household incomes of 75,000 household income, less than 500,000 of net worth. So they were off target, right? So we were able to surface this information and insight utilizing Resonate of this off target. And it helped inform our marketing, our targets. We need to be more aggressive in who you're targeting, and being able to do that kind of targeting for their campaigns. For them, it blew it out of the water. They had all-time record leads generated. And not only was there a high volume of leads coming through, but the lead quality maintained from what they had previously, and their cost per lead was slashed by like 80%, if I remember right. So, I mean, it was the classic perfect storm of a number of different key marketing optimizations. But really what Resonate was crucial was to help challenge or even validate some assumptions they had. About marketing or their approaches. The media planning insights was helpful because they thought, well, we just need to be in these traditional, newspapers and magazines, and where you see in their audience that a lot of it was digital. We were like, you need to have a strong digital foundation and tackle some of those as an additional sprinkling, a couple sprinkles on top of that. Don't use that as your whole foundation. So it's helpful in that way. That's just one example I would share.
That's a great way to challenge old assumptions by using data and a data-driven approach. So thank you for sharing that. We hear that a lot. Or the people that they're marketing to aren't the people who are buying, necessarily, said another way. Did you use AI at all in that, or any of Resonate's AI in the tool you mentioned? Ray goes by Ray, so you're fine.
Yeah, that's right. So that would have been before I think you had like AI insights at the time. That was before the beta rolled out then. So this would have been, it was a little dated on that one. But I will say, as you've been rolling out Ray, more of those capabilities in Ignite, for example, it's been awesome, especially for our data team and for our other Resonate users. It makes data mining a lot faster, a lot more intentional, in that way too, helping us discover additional insights we may overlook. One great example, your recent beta launch of the Ray Audience Builder in there is awesome. I can put in a quick description of perhaps what a client's self-described audience is, or I might describe an audience I'm wanting to reach out. And the AI can actually help me better understand some variables that I may not have considered to use in looking at this type of audience. So I think with the more inclusion of AI in the platform, it's been really helpful for us to tap into the power of AI from a efficiency standpoint, data discovery standpoint, helping us to do our jobs better than we could have just, manually in that way, if that makes sense.
No, it's great to hear that you're embracing that. I think those are great examples of how to help your teams. Which leads me to my next question. Data being shared across organizations, the democratizing of data, is really important. Is that something you guys are able to do with Resonate? Like, how do you use Resonate to be able to share that with other teams, other departments, or do you?
Oh yeah, that's a huge one. So for us with Resonate, we leverage it in two ways, right? We leverage it, one, for our external audiences, meaning our advertisers or our sales teams, so to speak, in that way. So democratizing it for us means for our sales teams, helping them understand, ultimately leveraging research and information to help them have more successful sales interactions, right? So maybe that means, as they're working with a super key opportunity that maybe it's a roofer, right? So being able to help them understand, okay, great. What does the market opportunity look like with other resources, right? But then as we look at, using Resonate to say, hey, did you know we can actually tap into local consumers, especially those not only that fit certain demographics, but we can tap into the intent of a local audience that's planning to repair or replace their roof in the next 12 months, utilizing Resonate variables. That's a valuable audience to get their message in front of, because these are people that are in the market for that. So you can go beyond just demographics and really start marketing to the intent of the audience, which at the end of the day, we've seen greater performance when marketing to intent than just demographics alone, right? So helping get that available to sales teams, right? And appropriately, because not everybody has the same level of data literacy as others. So for our team, we have a responsibility of not only making it available, right, as we're engaged within our process, but one of the core things we do as a data services team, and this is a ever ongoing process of refinement, but as a data services team, we feel we have a certain responsibility to be data storytellers and to share information in a simple, intuitive, and comprehensive way. So as we try to make data more accessible, which is important, we also need to make it actionable in that same aspect too. So as we're sharing that information, we want to help them understand, well, here's what the personal values are, which is great. We can identify these. What's the next step? What does this tell us about the audience? What can we do differently now that we know this about the audience, for example? So that's been huge, huge for us. And for our clients and our advertisers that we work with, they love that. And many instances, I think having that data and information really does help differentiate us compared to other competitors or partners they may be working with or wanting to work with, perhaps because at the end of the day, we're here to help them be a consultant and not to drive just our solutions that we bring to market. At the end of the day, we want to help their business grow. So by bringing that information forward to them, we can be that consultant to help them be successful.
I'm curious, taking that consultative approach, do you use it in other areas like suggestions for creative development or media strategy, more omni-channel? Like, talk a little bit about that if you do that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So the creative side, that's an area where we recognize for us as an organization, there's a need for that. So seeing how we can have more creative services in-house, we've actually hired more designers in some of our markets that love seeing data, understanding more about an audience that can help them be more intentional with the types of ad copy they may write, the type of visuals we focus on, for example. So that's been great. When it comes to for example, leveraging Resonate on the media side, taking an omni-channel approach, that's huge. And I remember when the media planning report wasn't in Ignite, and it was hard. It was really fragmented. You'd have to dig around to different variables to kind of illustrate what this might look like. And when that launched, we were ecstatic. We're like, this is exactly what drives the value of having an integrated approach to reaching consumers. Because what we see time and time again with that insight is consumers just aren't on one platform. Anybody that's worked in marketing understands that, but now having data to visualize that helps us to move away from just our opinion to having justification beyond our opinion alone. So with that, it's helped us to be consultative with clients and saying whether it's the market audience we're looking at, market consumers, or if it's their first party audience, that's where it gets really fun, is when it's their own first party tag data, because they may have an assumption of why they've gone to market the way that they have, but now seeing where their audience spends a lot of time also can help illustrate opportunities they may not be taking advantage of, or perhaps challenge some of the assumptions I alluded to earlier. I remember we were meeting with a client, walking through their data, and he was like, well, I always wanted to be in newspaper, to do print, which is a great format. I've worked in that for years. But he's like, but now that I see this data, I can see why I need to be exploring, additional social media channels like Facebook or some of these other platforms. So just being able to bring that information to light really does do a lot of powerful impact for our clients and advertisers. So where we can, we try to make that accessible, as appropriate in those scenarios.
It's always so exciting for me and the Resonate team to hear directly from our customers about how they're using the tools that we provide and how we're collaborating and helping you be successful. And the successes have sound amazing. So I thank you very much for sharing all them. I am also curious about your challenges in the next year and what you're facing and what you need help with, and what's the one thing you'd want changed, or what do you want to ask our product team who's sitting here? So
Oh, that's a dangerous question to ask me.
it's an opportunity for you.
No, that's a really great question. I'll speak to the challenge first, and this may seem broad. I mean, but it's important. And I would say the biggest challenge, I think, for our organization and perhaps others, and perhaps other clients that you work with, is just the nature of marketplaces, marketing, advertising alone, and consumers are complex. They're ever evolving and changing. So being able to not only know what those changes are, to be able to pivot as needed is really important. So for example, that's really the challenge, is that accelerated innovation and disruption that's happening at a given time. So naturally, how do we innovate with that? How do we ride the innovation and change rather than resist the disruption, right? For example, as AI is going to continue to evolve and enhance and support the marketing landscape, or, marketing needs, in reality, it's becoming more sophisticated, and more of our advertisers are wanting to see, more transparency behind what their audience is doing, what our advertising efforts are doing to help support their strategies, is important, seeing that at a given time. But the ability to attribute and measure that success is going to be of paramount as the journey becomes more complex for consumers. Yes, just like Grace says, here, measurement really does become critical. And so that's something that we're mindful of and trying to do our best. And the reality is we're mindful that there isn't just one solution out there that addresses the, measurement and attribution alone. It's so complex. Granted, we're optimistic that as more innovations are coming from AI, from, countless, organizations, that we're probably going to get to a better spot where we can at least have a better visualization into that, which is great. So with that challenge, I think the way that our organization personally, or any other organization, is to really just embrace change and not to fight it at the end of the day. Just fighting it, you're going to find that you're going to be falling off of a fast moving train if you're going to be doing that at the end of the day. Now, you mentioned about the product team being here, which awesome, great job. You guys doing a fantastic job. You have a really powerful system, a really, really powerful one. So I think if there were things that we would want or need, I'll just list a couple of things. One is, I love your state of the consumer reports that you push out from Resonate. They are awesome. And kudos to the team for doing a great job of telling the story each and every time with those reports. One thing as a customer is, and this is partly me being a data scientist in that way, I would love to have the ability to be able to trend, think like your NCS insights over time. So for example, being able to look at, the National Consumer Study, any of the Resonate elements and variables, to trend it over time. So if I wanted to look at, 2020, and being able to look through now and to see, how have consumers' financial situation has changed over time? How have people, what's the consumer sentiment around ABC? Just being able to trend that, I think, would be fascinating, because you've been able to do that in some of your state of consumer reports, and that would be something we'd love to be able to do. That can help us do additional data discovery there. That would be really cool. The The next thing I would say, and this is a very minor thing, we're getting by in that way. When we're in an analysis, right, you can be able to pull in audiences. And if it's a tag audience, you can select the lifetime range of the tag's data by default. And naturally, we can do some customization. Maybe we want to look at an isolated month or time period. One thing that would be great to have are some default date range options. So maybe it's like I just want to see the last 30 days, last 60 or 90 days, maybe the last 6 months. What that might do, it sounds simple, but what that would do is it'll save us time from having to click and kind of manually select the date range, just kind of calculate it out. I think it would just make those steps a little bit faster. So I'll just share those two. I'll stop at that point. You guys are doing a great job on that.
I know you can't see him, but David Huffman was shaking his head to all those things. So
Oh, great.
Just get Dave.
So the one last thing I was going to add, because you mentioned about AI, and I mentioned about the attribution measurement pieces. One thing I see constantly, and it's great. Once AI was starting to roll out, I knew this was going to happen. Is there are so many AI applications now, and there's a lot of noise about it. And one thing that we see is there's a lot about, we can develop all these creatives using AI, which is great. That's awesome. I remember the days of having to do that manually, and it sucked, right? So being able to see that we can do that now is fantastic. One thing, we've kind of gotten questions about as we've leveraged Resonate Insights is, for example, if we're looking at personal values, if we're looking at all of these insights about an audience, I think it'd be really cool if there was, as you have AI Insights, that tab in there that can mine these things, give you quick snippets and summary key points about the audience. I think it'd be really powerful if you could take the Resonate Insights of what we know about an audience, whether it's a tag audience, whether it's people from the Resonate Elements attributes, for example, but being able to feed it into Ray and to say, given what we know about this audience, here are some creative recommendations based off of these kinds of prompts. So for example, if I'm a roofing business and I'm trying to market to, I'm going to throw out a market here, the Seattle marketplace, and typically I'm trying to reach a homeowner that, owns their home, possibly is getting by financially and has these personal values. Maybe they're living a life of stimulation. For example, there's personal values are stimulation, achievement, and I forget the last one, traditional. All about family and faith and those core values. What are some creative recommendations if I'm trying to sell roofing services, and to have Ray kind of give some recommendations or considerations for that? I think that could help support businesses, whether they have a creative services in-house or not, to be able to at least ideate and think, okay, here's how I can take this data, knowing what I know about the audience, how I can take action on it more so. So if I'm a roofing business, here's how I could speak to this audience more so. Because sometimes that's the question that we get from clients is like, okay, well, that's good to know they have these personal values, but how can I really consider and apply those themes to messaging at the end of the day?
Austin, as kind of a wrap up, we do hackathons all the time where we take ideas and make them reality or test them out and everything. That's a great hackathon idea and a great gem for you to share with us. And I cannot thank you enough for your time. You've been very generous with your time and your information. And we always learn so much from our customers. So thank you for being such a great customer, and thank you for your time today.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. Pleasure, and keep up the great work.